one of his best clients is a defense attorney. And, I really like what Greta said about taking it court personally and saying, you're there for a reason. It's all out of the realm of theoretical. And just a few moments, it'll be real. It'll be prosecutor ran a case, brought it to the grand jury, got the indictment. It is now up to him.
We will figure out Donald Trump case here in New York.
Members who are with the president right now, assuring his safety and what's sure to be a challenge for all, ensuring his security right there. As you can see, I don't know anybody here in New York, but if you're like me, I saw extra cops out there today, and here comes the former president right now. We don't know where the microphones are, but we know that he's expected to make his way there. This is after being fingerprinted and arraigned, and we assume making a plea. In that case, the president's walking by, Jason Miller following, a number of people.
There is a lot of cops there.
With him. And this, of course, Tom, historic day. Mark Bertovich, we may have to interrupt you any second now, but wanted to get your thoughts as far as this case is concerned against the former president of the United States.
Thanks for having me on. And obviously, just even the scene we're looking at right now shows you how politically charged this case is. And as a former state and federal prosecutor, and before I became AG, one of the first things you learn when you tell young prosecutors is you do not bring cases unless there's a reasonable likelihood of conviction. You don't bring cases for political reasons. And with me as a prosecutor, when I look back and you look at the credibility of witnesses, people like Michael Cohen, when you look at the fact that these are novel theories that essentially were debunked in the John Edwards case, when you look at this amount of publicity, the fact that the prosecutor himself had indicated that he was going to go after Trump, there are so many reasons why this case should not move forward because it's purely political. And I understand there are people out there that maybe don't like President Donald Trump, but if you don't like it, here in the United States, we resolve our differences through lawful and free elections. We don't resolve them by having aggressive left-wing prosecutors basically persecute someone because they disagree with them politically. I think it's a dangerous precedent regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum.
Yeah, Tom, you're a lawyer, and I want to get your thoughts on the former president's, I'm going to say, demeanor and body language. We saw when he deplaned yesterday at LaGuardia Airport. I mean, straight into the car, very serious. We saw his face there for just mere seconds. I don't know that I've seen that look on our former president's face.
It was a different look, and look, this is, we've been talking about this the last number of days. This has been 6 years. Is it 6 years? 7 years of one thing after another, an effort to delegitimize him and humiliate him. And perhaps there is nothing more humiliating than having to go before the court system and being accused of being a criminal. And I think that also for so many people today who are watching it, and people all across the political spectrum, they're seeing what they believe is a weaponization of our justice system in a way that a lot of people feel runs contrary to who we are as Americans. So I think that's what you're seeing on his face.
This sort of look,
in New York
again, a few moments ago when the president came through. This is the look, Harry, we're talking about very serious. And I'm sure
there's
going through what
Donald Trump
is sobering. It is serious. It could. You're talking about how through the whole process this can make you feel.
There was Donald Trump.
I think that's what you're seeing on his face. Sort of.
Donald Trump's like, I'm just going with the flow.
Look, especially.
Mark, we've learned that photographers are allowed to go in with for just a few minutes to take photos photos of the former president just moments before the arraignment is happening. Of course, the arraignment now underway in New York City. We saw the former president go from after being fingerprinted, but again, no mugshot was taken as far as we have learned, and now the arraignment is underway. And we're expected to hear from the president following that arraignment.
Do you know what floor that happens?
I think it's
On the 15th floor.
Okay, so we'll make its way up. So we're seeing him on his
We'll
way.
see him on the 15th floor here.
Okay, it's 15. Okay, so this is something, Doug Collins, you're an attorney and former member of Congress. Your perspective legally and politically.
Well, one, y'all talk about his look. I've seen that look before. It is when he gets serious, when he is focused on something, he's, I think, agitated, upset, he's ready to get something done. I've
So
seen
that
that look
must be
before.
why.
That's a very serious look from him. He's
Fine.
ready to get this done.
Very
He believes he's
TV.
being mistreated. He believes he's being persecuted, and it's coming out in his face. I think you're seeing a Donald Trump there that Alvin Bragg probably did not want to see. His legal team is going to be precise. Right now, this is, sort of it is, I guess you were the word sobering time. He's there before a judge. He's going to say not guilty in a very strong word, but I think that
He's gonna say not guilty.
game on for him.
Yeah.
Realize, I think, in that depth, but he's also ready to put it behind him and move forward. And that's when Donald Trump, when he focuses like that, he makes a splash, and he will do it, I believe, in this one. And I think that's where his lawyers are going to have to be with him as he does this, because he's in business world, not legal world. There's a difference there. And I think his attorneys will have to work with him even more than they have in the past to make sure that focus continues, because he does believe he's being mistreated.
Yeah, and maybe you can speak to this, Doug, as somebody who has known the president for a while. As we were talking about, is bigger than life. And then some people consider him, if you're somebody who opposes Donald Trump, you maybe even consider him cartoonish or like a caricature sometimes, and not realize that the names outside the building say Trump for a reason, that this is somebody who deals in the business world with some depth, some dexterity. And this is somebody who obviously has to go through some serious calculations to get where he is. As he has said before, I'm president of the United States, you're not. So that it was not just a lark that he got there. So if you could address that for a moment, that sometimes people may underestimate his ability to put on the game face. I guess I might even call that a game face. And Doug, you're a former basketball player, you know all about that.
I can say, look, I mean, why is it that the mainstream media forgot that was in love with Donald Trump up until 2015 until he ran for president, who actually looked at his accomplishments, who took on his building, who took on his development, who talked about, he was the #1 movie. I mean, if you went to a billionaire, it was Donald Trump. You went to a businessman, Donald Trump. I want to be, and yet when he had expressed political positions and left his life, they all of a sudden turned on, he can do it. And because we've seen it, his books he's written, the stuff that he's done. But also there's a side of Donald Trump that I've been very frustrated about that's not shown. He not only can be very serious, but he also has a very open, compassionate side as well. He is not this caricature that the left has made him out to be. He's very emotional. He's concerned. I've had some very, personal times when I've seen him actually acting that way on very different occasions. But again, it is amazing to me. People forget about the years before he ever became president, when universally he was thought of as, that's the business person I want to be. I want to be Donald Trump. Then the left turns on him, and he's not. He's still the same person. They're going to find that out this time.
Yeah, Mark, we're learning that the former president is going to be the one to enter his not guilty plea. It's not going to be his attorneys, of course. They will be standing by. Also, we're not sure how long this process will take. There are 34 counts, and if they read all of them, that could take some time. But we're also learning there's an option to waive that, so we're going to see how long it takes. But Mark, is it, you think, a good move? Is that the right message to send, to have the former president enter his own not guilty plea? That sounds powerful.
Well, one of the things that, as prosecutors, most of the time, defendants or their attorneys will waive the reading of the indictment because no one wants to sit there for half an hour. Quite frankly, strategically, if you're President Trump and his lawyers, you don't want image or the reporters reporting in detail. One of the things that I'm interested in as a former prosecutor is that a lot of times if you have political prosecutors, they will do what's called a speaking indictment. They put a lot of extraneous stuff in there, so that way it makes the stories juicier that come out. But I think absolutely, if I were advising President Trump, I would have him say, absolutely 100% not guilty on any of those counts. Just keep it short and sweet like that. And I know just one of your other guests commenting on kind of the intent or the personality of President Trump. I was exchanging messages with him last night, and one of the things that he texted me was, "Make sure you tell your mom I said hello," because he's talked to my mom before, and so he's kind of this crusty, like tough New York kind of fighter, but at the same time, he goes out of his way while he's facing these indictments to say, "Make sure you tell your mom I said hello." And so I think that's kind of the personality sometimes folks don't see. And I will tell you, I did make the joke to the president that I think the only crime he's ever been guilty of was not endorsing me when I ran for the U.S. Senate. Other than that, all of this stuff is so highly charged and it's political in nature. And I just know, like I said, I've prosecuted, I've handled thousands of cases in my career, that if you don't have a reasonable likelihood of conviction, you do not bring the case. But I think clearly what's happening here in the Manhattan and the New York DA's office is that they have a political agenda, and I think they made a great miscalculation. They assume if they indict President Trump or they indict him in another state, that somehow the public's going to turn on him and that this is going to hurt his abilities to run for political office. But frankly, I think it's going to have the opposite effect, because no one circles the wagon like Donald Trump and his supporters. And I think what you're going to see is people coming together, recognizing that this is not only such political theater, but at the same time, it's a really sad day, I think, for the United States. You have a former president, here, having to face, trumped up criminal charges, or pardon the pun. And I think that a lot of folks, even independents, are going to be like, yeah, we're better than the country.
Tom, Mark was kind of alluding to, there are some other cases going on, of course. We've got Georgia, we have the documents case. You've been involved politically. Do these people talk to each other? And it's like, you go first, and you're going to break it, and then the rest of us will come in later. And the only reason I laid out there is, like Mark was talking about, the political implications of this. Is there a possibility that this is like a long-range plan? Okay, we're going to bring that. You do it first, and then we've got Georgia behind it, and then we go on after that. This could be a very long period of time. Even this case isn't expected to hit court, if it does, for a year.
Yeah, at least a year. Now, look, if you are one of the folks that believes that a lot of this is part of a far less effort to win the 2024 presidential election, and to ding up Donald Trump, then I would say that yes, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that people are talking to each other, and this is part of a broader effort. But the fact of the matter is that there are, whether you believe that or not, there are other cases that are out there. We may hear about the civil case. I don't personally expect that to go anywhere, but there may be some news on the civil case over the next.
What case you're talking about? The documents, the Trump organ?
No, the other case
in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are business. Let's go to Michael Carter, because we want to keep an eye. I don't mean to interrupt you, Tom, but we do have a report from Michael Carter. Michael Carter down there in front of the courthouse. Go ahead, Michael.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, we're here on just adjacent on 100 Center Street courthouse. Right behind me, this building, state office building, is where folks get married, get their marriage's license, get the driver's license. Just beyond that is where the criminal courthouse is. As you can see, that street right now blocked off. We've got NYPD, Secret Service agents, everyone anticipating Donald Trump to leave this building. And when they do, ostensibly, the hundreds, if not thousands of folks who have been here for most of the day will leave along with it. So we're anticipating that right now. Donald Trump finishing up that arraignment, and then, of course, heading back to the airport and then down to Florida to Trump's South at the Mar-a-Lago for a speech later on this evening. Very peaceful out here today. A lot of jawing back and forth between Trump supporters and Trump protesters. NYPD doing a great job of separating those two sectors of folks in the park just across the street from the courthouse. If you're a Trump supporter, you go to the right. Trump protester, you go to the left. A barrier separates them in between. A lot of jawing back and forth, but we haven't seen anything really break out. No arrests from what we can tell. There may have been some, but from what our vantage point has been all day, we haven't seen that explode into anything. more than that. So right now on the scene, Bob, just a heavy sense of anticipation. Streets closed off. You've got helicopters overhead. Everyone waiting to see what this next chapter will hold.
And it's an interesting one. Just out of curiosity, what kind of distance is between the Trump supporters and the Trump protesters?
The right and the left.
The right and the left?
Yeah, literally, yeah. You know, I didn't think about that until just now. It's funny, Katrina. You're talking about 10 feet. In that park,
Okay.
you're about 10 feet, and it's double barriers. Police officers separating the two. You know, and you have MAGA flags flying on one side.
Are they yelling, Michael? Michael, are they yelling?
Oh,
are they
yes.
cordial? Are they
Yes.
yelling at each other?
Jawing back and forth. I was making akin to a sporting event. Yankees, Red Sox, back and forth in the upper deck, Bob.
And how many of them are yelling at you and the rest of the media?
We've actually only encountered a couple of folks who weren't Newsmax fans. That being said, it's been a beautiful day, close to 70 degrees here in New York City. And if you weren't at the courthouse, if you were a few blocks away, we're actually only about 3 blocks from Broadway, where they have the Canyons of Heroes. Most of the time, when you see crowds like this in Lower Manhattan, either the Yankees or the Giants have won a Super Bowl, Yankees a World Series. That's not the case today. But if you were only a few blocks away, really, other than the helicopters in the sky, you probably wouldn't know what's happening down here. All of the eyes of the entire world fixed on the Lower Manhattan Criminal Courthouse.
All right, Mike Carter, you're not that far from actually my neighborhood, and this morning felt like any other morning, but of course, very different from your vantage point. Thank you so much for the report.
You got it, guys.
All right, Mark Brnovich, Doug Collins, great having both of you with us and sharing your insights. And the silly stick around and joining us now, spokeswoman for Make America Great Again Incorporated, and former assistant press secretary under the Trump administration. Caroline Lebanon, of course, is back host Tom Vasili still with us. Caroline, I know you've had a busy morning so far. We were talking a lot about the former president's demeanor, that look on his face when he walked through those doors. Obviously, you've worked with the former president. What did you read in that moment?
I read that Donald Trump is ready to fight back. And seeing those images of our former president and future president of the United States being ushered into a courtroom like he is a criminal, when real criminals are terrorizing the streets of Manhattan right now, is frankly infuriating. As President Trump said himself, it's unbelievable that this is happening in America today. Freedom and democracy are targeting the former president of the United States. They are targeting the people for the 2024 race, because he offers peace and security, freedom, and a government for the people and by the people. And that's what they're afraid of.
And that's a shot of the former president right there. Obviously, Caroline, this is the kind of thing that is clearly you're upset. This is the former president of the United States in a courtroom. Tom, I don't know what the process here is, whether he's sitting there listening to the indictment charges being read, or whether they're submitted in writing and they have the option. Sounds like they would have the option. But what do you think is going on here legally?
Look, this may be even before the beginning of the proceeding. They had agreed that there would be what they call a pool spray, where you have a number of still photographers would be allowed for a very short period of time. And we watched it happen. So they went in, they were probably in for about 90 seconds, really, and then they were pulled out just to take some of these photos and hear the former president and his legal team sitting and perhaps waiting for the arraignment to begin.
Yeah, again, we're seeing there Joe Tacopina to the far right, and then Susan Nichelas and Todd Blanche, again, his legal team right there by his side. Caroline, you know, I'm curious. I saw Alvin Bragg
Just
out of those
put your
doors, maybe 10 or so minutes prior to the former president coming out. I'm just imagining that they may have had some sort of interaction. There was a moment for them to exchange glances at the very least. Again, you know the president. What do you think that was like?
Well, it's hard to imagine, again, but I do think Alvin Bragg probably thinks this is his Super Bowl. And I bet the Democrats and the self-righteous elites in the media are salivating over these photos. Well, guess what? They are sadly mistaken. This is going to backfire on them. You guys, on my way over to this studio here in Manhattan, New York, a very liberal place, I saw so many wonderful patriots with their MAGA hats on, with Trump 2024 signs, peacefully showing their support for their president. I spoke to an NYPD officer. He said to me, I would stand out here in this city all night to protect that man. Real America is with President Trump. Real America supports President Trump, and he is going to be our president again in 2024.
Having said all that, we've seen a process unfold in which there were charges brought, allegations, I guess, Tom. The process being the district attorney, Alvin Bragg, who ran on a number of things, including I don't want to say go easier on criminals, but to not have as many people in jail seemed to be one of his goals, and then not trying as many people for felonies. And then to bring this, that's what strikes a lot of people as odd is, again, we've talked about this, no victim in this, and we haven't even talked about the statute of limitations on these underlying charges that actually require some overcoming. I don't know if that's a word, but could you explain even how we got here? Because this ended up with the former president in that courtroom making a plea.
Alvin Bragg directed downward from felony to misdemeanor 52% of all of the cases that came through his office last year. And as Caroline was pointing out, we've seen spikes in crime. We've seen the deadly impact of a soft on crime district attorney. And we've not only seen it here, we've seen it in a lot of other cities around the country. But he and Letitia James, the Attorney General of the state of New York, ran on we're going to go after Trump. And this was the point that Greta Van Susteren was making eloquently earlier. There is an issue of potentially lack of jurisdiction here because there's been a lot of legal gymnastics to try and get this into state court to begin with. So in terms of the motions that are going to be filed, those motions to dismiss, you've got selective prosecution because this is political. You've got the fact that there could be a lack of jurisdiction. You have that statute of limitations, which I don't think they're going to be able to successfully say that they could toll for some of these offenses. And so again, this motions practice is going to be very robust and very aggressive on the part of the president.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to let everyone know that we, as expected, the former president has officially entered his own not guilty plea. We anticipated he would, and he now has. And I did want to get a sense from you, Caroline. You said you see so many people, even here in this very liberal city of New York, rallying around the former president. As this plays out, and Bob has pointed out, and Tom has, this could take a very, very long time. There are other cases going on regarding the president. How does this affect the 2024 race for president?
We've already seen it affected in a big way over the past week, right? President Trump has surged in the polls. National polls have him 30 points ahead of his next contender, Governor Ron DeSantis, who frankly shouldn't even run at this point for the presidency.
Why should he run? I mean, there are a lot of people saying, why not? And the reason I ask you that is I've heard, who was it? The other day said all the other Republican candidates should stand down now. And we asked Rick Santorum about that, who ran for president. And he said, no, it doesn't work like that. I mean, these are Americans who have served their country and feel like they have every right to run for office too. So I know you're a big supporter, but why not let the process unfold? Because, and I'll throw this in, the latest polls show Mr. Trump's at 51% versus the closest is what? DeSantis at 30? Or in the 20s? Nowhere close. So just the idea that they should give up.
Let me preface this by saying everybody has a right to run for office, right? Primaries are great. They're great for
You've done it yourself.
I have. They're great for the voters. But if you want to run, you should run to win. And Governor Ron DeSantis is going to be running to lose. We're already seeing that in the polls. He is dropping. Donald Trump is surging. He is the leader of the Republican Party in this moment. If he wants to get in the race,
he's ahead in the primaries in January for Iowa and New Hampshire.
Governor DeSantis?
Yes.
No, he is not. Well, yesterday came out New Hampshire. President Trump is leading in New Hampshire by double digits. Ron DeSantis can barely hang on to his base.
Okay.
In his home state of
Florida. A long time.
There's a process here that's going to be that's a long process. The election is a long way away. 18 months in politics is an enormous amount of time. And I think that there is a challenge for the president's team to stay focused on a positive message make his campaign and reinforce sort of a victim,
Right.
that he's a victim here, because I think that could generate a degree of fatigue, because a lot of people do have fatigue from these last number of years, and I think that that's also a challenge for him tonight to say, you know what, this isn't necessarily what we would see in America, or what he said today, but then also pivot to what he is going to bring to his second term.
Right. We want to bring in former prosecutor, constitutional law attorney, and Newsmax contributor Amir Benno. Amir, great to have you as part of our conversation today. Just kind of give us your thoughts on what you have observed so far. Of course, the former president entering his own not guilty plea, and we've been seeing his expressions, or one very serious one, throughout the morning.
Yeah, well, it's not surprising that he entered a not guilty plea because he's not guilty. In fact, the question is whether he even have a crime at all here. And what's also very interesting is the number of people who have turned up.
Will Donald Trump be arrested? Or not? We'll find out. We'll find out. But you will not be arrested. Or you will. People think you will be arrested, but you won't. And it depends on what people think. We don't know yet. And I can't say anything too much because people might get offended. But we'll see what happens. Okay?